Ella desde que tenía 10 años me decía a mí, ¿verdad? Desde chiquita que, mami, cuando yo sea grande voy a escribirme al ejército, voy a ir.
She felt like it was her duty to serve. She shipped out on June 10th of 2018. I'll never forget that moment because it was like we were saying goodbye.
Now the search continues for missing Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Guillen.
Es una fecha que nunca se podrá olvidar.
We were talking the day before. I called her and it goes straight to voicemail. I tried to stay hopeful, but deep down I knew something bad had happened.
I didn't sleep the whole night, April 22nd. We better find her.
How can this happen on military base? How can this happen while she was on duty? How can this just happen and they let it go under the rug like if it was nothing?
There was a few incidences where she had told her colleagues, her friends, her family about being sexually harassed.
She deserves respect. She deserves to be heard. Because if this can happen to my sister, it can happen to anyone else.
You know, Vanessa Guillen's case was a difficult case. We kind of shook our head. What the hell's going on?
New developments in the search for missing Fort Hood soldier.
Destrozarle su cuerpo.
You don't do that to even a terrorist.
My sister did not deserve to suffer because Fort Hood, the great place, hasn't done anything.
¿Qué motivo llevó a ese grado? ¿Qué es lo que pasó? ¿Por qué ese asesinato por él?
I know rumors. There's all kind of speculation.
Why?
Only Vanessa and God know, and neither one of them's going to talk to us.
Yo quise morirme con ella.
We are not going to let Vanessa to have died in vain.
We need these protections for our troops. Who's going to go and send their child to the military? Who's going to sign up and say, yeah, I can't wait to get sexually harassed and sexually assaulted this week?
She had to die. She had to be murdered and dismembered and burned. In order for us, all of us here, to realize that this is happening for decades.
Mi hija es historia, es una leyenda. Pues yo como madre, ¿verdad? Pues me agarro a llorar. Cuando me llega el sentimiento, me agarro a llorar de ver tanta foto de la niña. Yo nomás la única manera que la puedo ver es en foto, ¿verdad? Y en video, ya no la puedo ver en vida. Pues es lo que me gana la tristeza, pero quiero tenerla yo donde yo la mire, porque si es mi hija, carne de mi carne, sangre de mi sangre, y se me arrebató tan joven, con sueños, con metas, y le truncaron su vida muy joven, y yo amo tanto a mi hija, todos mis hijos los amo, pero ella era especial para mí. Ella siempre andaba conmigo, a la iglesia ella siempre me acompañaba, al mandado, ella siempre andaba pegada, siempre. Y yo extraño todo, por eso yo cuando pasó lo que pasó con ella, yo quise morirme con ella.
She was crazy in a good way. She was a really fun person to be with, very generous, very kind.
She was a sister, but a friend as well, because we used to hang out, play soccer, either run, either jump fences, to either play soccer. Her laugh was like an instinct for me to just laugh, because she was that of a funny person, a happy person, and every picture you will never see her with like a tough face. She was always smiling.
Vanessa Guillen, she's born and raised in Houston, Texas. Her parents are from Mexico, immigrants. They came to this country looking for a better life for their sons and daughters.
Trabajar, a salir adelante, a sobresalir, trabajando honradamente, como decía ella.
Vanessa's family, they're extremely close, but they don't always show it.
She was a kind, loving person, but for our relationship, as Maida said, used to be like tough with each other, so we never like hugged or cried, but she was unique in her own way.
Muy disciplinada y en la escuela siempre estaba al pendiente, siempre tuvo buenas calificaciones.
Siempre hubo un respeto de padre a hijo y de hijo a padre, siempre. Eso no cabe ninguna duda. Tenemos un bonito recuerdo de ella, de una bella hija.
She was into sports. She was a very active person. She never liked to just be sitting around. She was either running, playing soccer, You could find her in the track, the soccer field, in the gym. She was constantly moving.
Ella era muy atlética, muy hiperactiva, como cualquier muchacha, como que mucha actividad.
We always used to go to the backyard and play soccer, or we used to watch soccer games at the TV here on the couch.
Saliendo de high school, luego a jugar fútbol y luego más tarde tal vez otra vez a jugar.
I am Victoria Soli. I coached Vanessa Guillen in soccer for 2 years at Chavez High School. Vanessa was a delight, just a beautiful young woman, young girl. She was very determined when she played, a very good teammate. She was just such a good role model for young girls.
Guardo dos detalles de ella muy bonitos, de que a ella le gustó siempre los niños y los ancianos. Ella siempre dice, los niños son una bendición y los ancianitos deben cuidarlos. Por eso yo digo que se ha levantado lo que se ha levantado.
Lo que dice Gloria a mí me consta que sí, siempre poner la mirada en ellos. Y no todas las personas hacemos así.
Vanessa's sense of duty and that fierce compassion eventually leads her to enlist in the U.S. Army.
Ella desde que tenía 10 años me decía a mí, desde chiquita, que mami, cuando yo sea grande voy a inscribirme al ejército. Yo quiero ir para defender mi país, mi patria. Cuando esté grande yo voy a ir. Y yo le dije, cálmese. O sea, es una niña, no sabe lo que dice. O sea, yo sabe que nunca la dejaré.
As far back as I can remember, it was high school days, and it was always more or less like, what do you want in the future? And she felt like it was her duty to serve for some reason.
Y creció y a los 17 años, mami, me voy a escribir en el ejército. Le dije, ¿no se te olvida esa tontería? No, mami, yo te lo dije.
We do have a military background in our family, but it was, just men, mostly our male cousins. She was the first female to want to go ahead and sign up. She shipped out on June 10th of 2018. I drove her to the Crown Plaza Hotel right there by NRG. We were never really the hugging type or like the crying type, and that day it was like we did like a group hug kind of thing, and eventually just everyone started drowning in tears. And I'll never forget that moment because it was like we were saying goodbye. Even though we were going to see her again, it felt like she was the first one to completely separate from the family.
After graduating from Cesar Chavez High School, Vanessa joins the Army. She's assigned to Fort Hood, which is about 3 hours from Houston, a 3-hour drive or so, there in the heart of Texas. Vanessa is a small arms repair soldier, so there at base, she is responsible for maintenance and inventory of these weapons. After Vanessa goes to Fort Hood, her family starts to notice changes in her behavior. Her demeanor, she's once this happy, really vibrant woman, and all of a sudden she's not the same.
Nunca me pasó por la mente que iban a pasar cosas así tan feas. Sí, oía decir cosas que pasan en el ejército, pero nunca me imaginé que algo así tan grave. Firmó por 3 años, era lo más corto que había, 3 años, y pues que ya nomás le faltaba 1 año, 1 mes yo creo, para terminar, pues no se pudo.
To the mandatory mask order just issued minutes ago by Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo.
April 22nd, 2020. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. People are worried about their safety, their health. They're worried for their family, and they're really unsure about this virus and what it means. As everyone's dealing with the pandemic, Vanessa is doing her job. She's at Fort Hood as a soldier, something that she dreamt of doing.
Pues es una fecha que es inolvidable, y es una fecha que siempre la vamos a tener aquí y aquí. O sea que, ¿por qué? Siempre las preguntas, más preguntas que respuestas hasta ahorita. ¿Por qué?
We were talking the day before. Everything was fine. We usually text, check up on each other. That morning, it was super busy for me. I literally got into the office. I didn't even look at my phone. I didn't text anyone good morning. That's how busy it was. And eventually lunchtime comes around, and her boyfriend, he asked me, hey, have you talked to Vanessa? And I'm like, no, I've been really busy, but let me catch a break and I'll call her. That day, for some reason, it was odd too. Like everything was just going wrong in the office, and nothing felt right, and I was a bit upset and anxious. So I call her and it goes straight to voicemail.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice messaging.
She'll probably call me back or something, or she's in the arms room and there's no signal. Let me text her. So eventually I see that the text doesn't go through. I keep checking my phone, nothing. And eventually hour by hour passes by. And that's when I'm like, okay, I need to find somebody's number in the Army. Somebody that's in charge. Her best friend luckily knew people in the base that were able to give me the number quick. I called and they had no idea.
Pues fue cuando pasó lo que pasó con mi hija, su asesinato, supuestamente que fue ese día, ¿verdad?
I was at school, and like same as Mara, I just felt pretty weird. I come back from school at 5:30, and you know, my mom seems anxious as well, and they didn't want to tell me anything. That's when Myra walks to the other side of the house and tells my mom, I feel that something's gone wrong with Vanessa. And that's where my other sister told me, just go to the room and don't listen.
Everything was out of place, and that's when I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go down there and check myself. I'm not gonna believe what these people are saying to me.
And later that night, Myra left, and my parents actually slept down here on the couch, and I can just hear my mom crying, like a desperation as any mother will.
It's April 22nd. Vanessa's always by her phone. She's responsive. Myra can't get a hold of Vanessa. She's worried about her. This is making the whole family uneasy. So Myra decides to make the journey from Houston to Fort Hood, trying to get answers about where Vanessa is.
I tried to stay hopeful, but deep down I knew something bad had happened. On my way there, I actually cried. I wanted to get there like so quick, like flying, but it was impossible. I just kept telling myself I should have left work earlier, you should have came earlier. Eventually we made it, and at the gate, I told them the situation. They were very careless about it. They didn't want to let me in at all. And I was like, okay, fine, you know what? Have it your way, I'll be back in the morning.
She calls my mom. It was like 3 in the morning. I didn't sleep the whole night, April 22nd, and I texted her. She didn't respond, but I did text her, and I still remember that text. I was like, we better find her.
April 23rd, Myra returns to Fort Hood. She goes to the base. She's again asking to speak with those on base about Vanessa, saying she doesn't know where her sister is. Army officials tell Myra that there's an accountability check on the day that she goes missing, around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and Vanessa didn't show up. They tell Myra that soldiers last see Vanessa in the parking lot around 1 o'clock. That's the last time anyone has eyes on her. Investigators tell Myra that inside the armory room, they find Vanessa's keys, military ID, and debit card. Obviously, that's a big red flag.
It's been confusing since the beginning. At first they claimed somebody saw her in the parking lot at 1 p.m. By 11, her phone wasn't ringing anymore, so I'm like, that's impossible. Then the other version, when they actually say, oh, something happened in the arms room, I was like, exactly, that was the last place somebody seen her. Why didn't you check there the first time?
We started the Facebook page, Find Vanessa Guillen. That sparked a lot of attention. We started our first march in May.
Louder! What do we want? Vanessa!
And that's where a lot of people, even in Killeen, they were like, she's a U.S. Army soldier, and she went missing on a military base. And after that, every single Friday, we started protesting outside Fort Hood, Texas.
Vanessa's family is anxious. They're desperate for answers. They want help. So they turn to their Congresswoman, Sylvia Garcia.
I'm Sylvia Garcia, Congresswoman from the 29th Congressional District here in the Houston area. And Vanessa Guillen was one of my constituents. We got a phone call from the sister first. She wanted to visit because her sister was missing and that she wasn't getting answers from Fort Hood.
Weeks have passed at this point. They're desperate for answers. They want help looking for Vanessa. So they turn to Tim Miller of Texas Equisearch, a bit of a local legend, because he works with law enforcement agencies. And what they do in partnership is that they look for people who've gone missing. Tim started this organization out of his own heartbreak. His daughter Laura vanished nearly 4 decades ago.
I remember every second of them 17 months of being alone, and there was no help. Nobody gave a damn. I promised Laura, and I promised God, I would never let a family go through that again. We started out just as hillbillies on horses, and we did a pretty good job, really. And then people come to our meetings and they say we don't have a horse, but got an ATV or we have a boat and sonar and we're divers and one thing or another. And whole goal was just working right here in the greater Houston area. Now we've been in 42 states, 11 different countries. Vanessa's family called me. And I told Vanessa's family we never get involved in a case until the family contacts law enforcement and tells law enforcement they've reached out for us. And then we've got to have approval by law enforcement before we can come in. The family did that. We actually flew up there, met with law enforcement. Was with them probably a couple hours. And when we left, we kind of shook our head and said, what the hell's going on?
When Tim gets involved in Vanessa's case, he's now working with the Army looking for her. But just his involvement propels the story into the headlines.
Well, right now, the search continues for missing Fort Hood soldier Vanessa Guillen. The Houston native was last seen April 22nd before vanishing without a trace.
I'm not going to guarantee we're going to find her, but I'm going to guarantee we're going to do the very best job that we can possibly do.
How does someone disappear on a base that has more protections and safeguards than anywhere else on the planet?
We knew where the armory was. We felt as though that was the closest place to get her off the base. And that road was very, very isolated, 18 miles, and that's where Lake Belton was at and stuff. And we looked at that. We wanted to fly it with a drone. They wouldn't let us fly it with a drone. We was too close to the base. And so we did a lot of stuff with ATVs and foot searching out there, but that would have taken literally, and I'm not exaggerating, 5,000 people to clear that. Then we sonared the lake, and then we sonared another lake, and then they wanted us to go ahead and sonar a couple bodies of water inside the base to see if we could find her cell phone.
It's mid-June 2020. Vanessa's family, they make a stunning revelation. They tell reporters that she was being sexually harassed on base prior to her disappearance.
There was a few incidences where she had told her colleagues, her friends, her family about being sexually harassed, and but she was afraid to report it.
She told my mom that one of her sergeants was harassing her sexually, and now knowing all the background, they should be ashamed of everything that's been going on and all the stories that we now hear.
We've got Tim Miller on the case with Texas EquiSearch. The Army says they're doing everything that they can. The family is pleading for answers. The pressure is mounting on finding Vanessa. Everyone's asking, where is she? Vanessa's story is now being shared by millions of people on social media. They're using the hashtag #IamVanessaGuillen, and they're sharing their own experiences of sexual harassment or sexual assault in the armed forces.
Meanwhile, the search for a missing Fort Hood soldier, Vanessa Guillen, continues today.
They promise to protect every single soldier like if it was their son and daughter. And yet, they sexually harassed her. Yet they say no soldier left behind. Yet they're leaving my sister behind because clearly after 2 months, they're trying their best to find her. After 2 months, after 60-some days.
More than 2 months have passed at this point. Vanessa's family finally gets to go inside the base. Inside Fort Hood, they're there with Congresswoman Garcia, their attorney Natalie Kawam, and they are finally sitting in the room with investigators asking for details about their daughter's disappearance.
So we made an official inquiry into the Army just at the time that when she was missing. That was probably mid-May. And then I set up a meeting with Colonel Overland, which was her immediate commander in her unit. And that was the first time that he had actually spoken with the family. And that was the challenge the whole time, is that they were not getting answers from the Army.
You know, Vanessa Guillen's case was a difficult case at best. We put a lot of time, a lot of resources in it. I really don't know how many times we went up there. I know we flew up there in an airplane. One of our members had 3 different times meeting with detectives. We went up there with law enforcement, wanted me to bring my big boat up and do sonar in Lake Belton, and that took 3 days. I remember telling them, I said, well, if she's in a lake, she would have floated by now. So we was hoping that we could at least find some of her clothes or some remains when the water went down. And then I suggested that we start searching the property around there too. And so when we were searching that property, that's when we found the burn pile. That's where we found part of the Pelican case. And I actually brought the detective over there and showed him what was left of the Pelican case, which there wasn't a whole lot. There was a handle and the wheels and probably 15% of the case that didn't burn. And it was literally burnt probably 12 feet up in the trees. It had to be incredible fire. Why nobody saw it, who knows? And so then I went and I got a probing rod and I probed down in that hole, and probing rod went down real easy, and then I probed around the hole, it wouldn't go down at all. And I said, what do you think about this area? He said, well, maybe there is something to it. What they did is they burnt their evidence here and they threw her in the river. So now the river was down pretty low. We actually rented a helicopter and we flew the river to see what kind of boat that we could get in it, and it determined the only thing we're going to get in there is kayaks. Hoping that maybe the most we can find now is maybe some of her clothes or something. So we get the kayaks, and that morning when we was ready to put kayaks in is when the people were working on the fence and got the foul odor and went over there and seen what appeared to be some human remains that some animals were digging up. I think, well, I don't think, I'm gonna say I know that if that wouldn't have happened, Vanessa Guillen probably would not be found today.
Can you just tell us, what are we looking at?
Aquí vemos pues, la imagen de la niña, una pintura. Es lo peor y lo más triste y lo más desesperante que le puede pasar a una madre. Un hijo es todo.
June 30th, 69 days after Vanessa has gone missing, her family is now in Washington, D.C., pleading with those in power to do something. Vanessa's family's in Washington. Crews are called out to a remote location along the Leon River in Bell County, and they discover something heartbreaking, human hair.
Yo le digo, Gloria, que saque fuerzas de donde sea, pero que no se dé por vencida, que no se rinda, y que cuando no pueda más, que le pida directamente a Dios.
Thank God for the animals that dug her up. Thank God for the fence. Because see, the fence wasn't there when Vanessa disappeared. They put the fence up afterwards and it wasn't complete. So they was going around, you know, fastening, doing the finishing touches with the fence. With the fence not being there, that's why we said, let's go ahead and search this area, because somebody could have driven way back there. They could have driven right back, which they did drive right back where the remains were finally found. Only a few days prior to that, we had our motorhome parked right there, and Vanessa's sister and father was there in the motorhome, and we actually walked around that area, so they were right there.
ABC 13 Eyewitness News live at 5. Now, breaking news.
Starting with this breaking news tonight, new developments in the search for missing Fort Hood soldier and Houston native.
Today in that same area, Texas EquiSearch founder Tim Miller says investigators found a shallow grave covered by rocks. Recent rain had made it difficult to see.
I remember calling Vanessa's sister and saying, hey, have you heard anything that's going on up there? And she said, no, there's some things on Facebook or stuff, but we don't believe anything.
Well, I was actually driving on the 30th down to Washington. It was the second day of us driving, and we eventually, I just feel like our phones vibrating. And obviously, you know, I'm not gonna get on the phone while being on the road, and that's when my aunt kind of starts reading what was going on over the news. We eventually get to the hotel in DC, and I see Tim is calling me. He was already in tears. He said, do you really want me to tell you what we found? And I was like, just tell me already. He described to me exactly what was found. I really couldn't say much after that.
Oh God, we both cried. I could cry now.
I had a Bible in front of me when I found out, and I just started crying. I think that's the only reaction and emotion I could have at that moment. I started crying, but I had to wipe my tears.
You know, that day, it's actually my birthday. So it's like, I'll never be able to get over that. I feel that I'll never be able to celebrate like I did in the past. And For me, it was like a gift from her to have found her that day. Because I remember a couple days back, I told myself, if I don't find her by the day of my birthday, I'm done.
The military couldn't find one of their missing soldiers. You guys found her.
I'm gonna say this. We made a hell of a lot bigger attempt to find Vanessa than the military ever did. On many of these cases, Steve, we can bring in every resource in the world and there's probably 98% chance we're not gonna find them. But if you do nothing, there's no chance. We took a chance on that 2%.
Vanessa's family, they've been praying for a miracle. They're optimistic that one day they're gonna find her, they're gonna be reunited with her. Instead, they get the call that remains are found. And they're not prepared for the information about how they're found, in truly a horrific state. Vanessa's body is not found in one piece. It's found in pieces. Someone has mutilated it, chopped up her body, burned it, and they've put it in 3 separate piles along the river, buried it, and then encased it in cement.
I'm gonna tell you what I told one of the investigators after she was found and the way she was found. I told him, I said, you know what? These people that we're actually fighting against in war, we do not go to the extent of destroying them like our own people did to Vanessa. We don't even do that to our enemies.
Pero cuando se encontró mi hija el día 30 de junio, yo caí en cama. Yo no supe de mí, yo me fui porque no aguanté el dolor. No sentía el dolor aquí, mejor quise no saber. Y créame lo que es algo que no se lo desea ninguna madre.
My sister did not deserve to suffer. My sister did not deserve this. But yet I do not lose hope on God. Because God has the last word. My sister deserves justice. That's why we demand a congressional investigation to be done. Because Fort Hood, the great place, hasn't done anything.
As investigators are there on the ground at the crime scene, they're also narrowing in on the lone murder suspect in Vanessa's case, Specialist Aaron Robinson.
Vanessa is in the Army room working, daytime, around 11 a.m., and Aaron Robinson is in the room with her.
He told police that he had texted her to inform her that he was in the room. He said that she read serial numbers for some equipment, and afterwards he gave her paperwork and the serial number for a machine gun which needed to be serviced. He told police that she then left their arms room, and he believed she would have gone to the motor pool where she would have, I guess, turned in the paperwork. But they ended up talking to witnesses in the motor room who said she never arrived with any paperwork. Law enforcement has interviewed 2 witnesses who said they saw Robinson pulling this, what they call a tough box, this large box with wheels out of the arms room on that same day in question. And they said that he loaded it into his vehicle and drove away. Their alarm bells are going off in their head that, oh my gosh, he was disposing of a body.
Early on in the investigation, witnesses put Specialist Robinson with Specialist Guillen the day of her disappearance. That information leads them to talk to him and eventually pull his cell phone records.
They analyzed the phone records pertaining to Robinson's telephone, and they reviewed the location data, and they could tell that at about 2 a.m. in the morning on April 23rd of 2020, his cell phone was identified as being in a certain vicinity. They were even able to pinpoint it to a location around a bridge, and then they were able to track that the cell phone was moving, and it moved along the Leon River, they said, in a northward direction, and it remained in that area for about 2 hours.
As detectives look into this case, they stumble upon Cecily Aguilar. Now, she's this estranged wife of a soldier, but she's also dating Aaron Robinson. Aguilar tells investigators that she's with Robinson the night of Vanessa Guillen's disappearance.
And when they interviewed her, her excuse really didn't line up with the length of the phone calls, and she's telling them, we couldn't find my phone. I was home with him that night, and we were just searching for my phone. That would explain the phone calls. They re-interviewed her, and after they re-interviewed her, she said, wait a minute, I apologize, I lied. She said, oh, well, yeah, I had to take a long drive and that's how I cope with these types of things. And so she's now trying to explain why they might have been in a certain location. She's trying to set up a defense for herself.
When Vanessa's remains are found, they go back to Aguilar, and she allegedly confesses to everything, including how she helped Robinson dismember Vanessa's body.
They interviewed Aguilar, and she admitted that Robinson had told her that he hit a female soldier in the head with a hammer multiple times back on base in the arms room, and that he killed her.
He said he took a hammer, the closest thing he had to him, and he bludgeoned her to death. Supposedly cleans up the room, puts her body in a pelican brief, takes it outside to the hallway, continues to clean up the room.
He then told her that he placed her into a box and took her out to a site that was near the Leon River, near the bridge, and she said that this box was already out at the location. He walked her over to the woods, opened up the box, and actually showed her a dead female's body inside the box. And she later identified the body as being that of Vanessa.
They bury her body. They try to first burn it. It doesn't burn. So then they use a machete and cut her into pieces and buried her body nearby the river in the ground.
They removed the head, how they removed the limbs from the body. She talks about how they tried to burn the body, but that the body wouldn't burn. So they had to take those remains out, and how they put them in holes and covered up.
The details of Aguilar's alleged confession are disturbing. She tells investigators they returned to the river 3 days later, her and Robinson. They have cement. They mix it there along the river, and they conceal Vanessa's remains in concrete.
The allegations are that she went through great lengths. They both went through great lengths to try to hide the body.
Detectives are now narrowing in on Robinson, and they have him under watch, 24-hour surveillance. The news reports come out that remains are found there. Robinson somehow hears about it. He escapes from Fort Hood.
When we're out there searching, we find a burn pile and stuff. Then I ask that lieutenant, where's Robinson at? What's happening now? Well, he's in the base. He's being watched 24/7. Well, if he was being watched 24/7, how in the hell did he get away to go ahead and do that to start with? So again, they dropped the ball on just keeping an eye on him inside the damn base. The lone murder suspect, that lieutenant, specifically told me, we got eyes on him every minute. They dropped the ball again.
ABC 13 Eyewitness News This Morning starts now.
Breaking news from Central Texas. A suspect in a Fort Hood criminal case has died by suicide in Killeen.
It's the morning of July 1st. Everyone still has questions about the remains. But as that's happening, news is breaking in Killeen about the prime suspect in Vanessa's case.
He doesn't want to go into police custody. He doesn't want to get arrested. He's on base. He escapes from being on base and runs from the scene, has communications with her, and ends up ultimately killing himself when the police catch up to him.
We've since learned from an Army report that there was poor communication between the soldiers that were tasked for looking at Robinson. They were supposed to safeguard him and treat him like somebody involved in a high-interest case. The report says he was under quarantine, being watched in a conference room, as investigators tried to piece together enough evidence to criminally charge him. Around 10 p.m., a soldier said Robinson called his mother and said, quote, "Don't believe what you hear about me," end quote. We've learned from that report that Robinson was listed as a soldier who needed a follow-up interview, not someone tied to a criminal investigation.
What we can't comment on right now, because it's part of a criminal investigation itself, are those specific actions, all right, that took place as a result of him leaving that conference room in which he was held, and the actions after that itself.
What was your reaction when you heard he's dead?
My reaction was, really? It doesn't surprise me. There's all kind of rumors. There's all kind of speculations. Will the truth ever come out? Why don't they give up the body cam?
Army officials say when he leaves base, they go after him, and he's surrounded by law enforcement. So we've requested that video. We wanted to see what happened there in Killeen. The city of Killeen said no. In the refusal to release this video, the city of Killeen is citing the Texas Public Information Act. They're using a provision of the law that's become known as the dead suspect loophole.
His case is over. right? And so there is no investigation into him any longer. We want the footage as it relates to his arrest and his demise so we can see what happened. But then you have to look to the Texas Public Information Act, and it talks about they're only going to release information if there's been a conviction or someone has been placed on what's called deferred adjudication, which is a form of probation. And here, because he died, there was no conviction. He wasn't placed on any deferred adjudication. So it falls into this area that allows the government to say, we don't have to disclose that information to you. And it probably originally wasn't there for people that are deceased. It was there to protect innocent people. I think this police department is within their rights to withhold that information.
Law enforcement agencies around the state have started using this exception to shield in custody deaths from public disclosure. Unintended consequence of the law, and we are trying to fix that.
A year later, there's 1,000 questions about this case, some that are really hard to shake. First and foremost, what's the motive? Why did Robinson kill Vanessa? Second, how did he clean up this crime scene? Did no one see him do it? We're talking about a bloody mess. He allegedly bludgeoned Vanessa to death with a hammer. Lastly, did no one see him do this? Did no one see him take her body off base? What's really frustrating for anyone who's followed this case, and specifically for this family, is that there are a lot of unanswered questions. And the prime murder suspect, he died by suicide. He's taken those answers to the grave. There's this other unanswered question about sexual harassment. A 2021 Army report reveals that Robinson did not sexually harass Guillen. It says, however, that he did sexually harass another female soldier on base a year before.
¿Qué motivo llevó a ese grado? ¿Qué es lo que pasó? ¿Por qué ese asesinato tan cruel? Porque ni el peor de los criminales se merece un asesinato así, ni el peor. Una joven pura y limpia, que es lo que nos preguntamos todos y todo el mundo se pregunta. ¿Por qué nada más a ella?
Why did they do it the way they did? Why did they try to hide everything and think that we were never gonna find her? Because apparently that was their goal, for us to never find her.
I have so many questions, but it's the same question as everyone else. Why? Why to her, and why do it the way, like after she's dead, you know, dismember her, burn her, and just throw her by a river like if she was no one, like if she was nothing. We still don't know what happened to her. We just know that she was murdered, but the question is why and who did it, because it's impossible that just one person was involved.
I don't think anybody will ever know the exact reason.
For weeks, for months, we've repeatedly asked the United States Army to sit down on the record, on camera, talk to us about this case, try to answer some of these questions that the family has and the public has. They've refused. They said it's impossible for them to do that because of the ongoing criminal investigation.
I was overwhelmed with emotions. I was hurting inside, but I kept my composure and gave her the salute that she deserved.
It's a life, it's a human, life, she'll never get married, she'll never have kids, someone lost their daughter, someone lost their sister.
This is hard for me because she's 20. She graduated the same year. I had a son in the military, and I can't imagine my child not coming home.
Yes, it has hit definitely Houston, specifically because you have a plethora of both black and brown lives. They're the majority, you feel me? So what affects one affects us all. That's how it should be.
Vanessa's murder didn't just impact her family. Millions of people have followed this story. They've been invested in it. They too want change.
She's very happy, and I want to thank her for giving me the strength, because without her, I don't know if I would be standing today here.
Outside the Catholic Church in Houston, where Vanessa's funeral is being held, the police chief at the time says something shocking. He says that Vanessa's family, they didn't trust the Army that the remains that were in that coffin belonged to Vanessa. So they asked the Houston Police Department to do their own DNA analysis to make sure the remains were that of Vanessa.
As a mother, I think you always hold on to a little bit of hope.
Her living and her death
will not be in vain, because she's already making a huge difference for other women serving in the military and, quite frankly, in organizations all over.
This is the painful moment that the family's been waiting for, her funeral. Mama Guillen, though, she's asking a really heartbreaking question. She's asking, why is the casket closed? Why can't she see her daughter? Vanessa's family was worried about her mother, so they didn't tell her about how the remains were found.
Sabe que yo no pude mirar a mi hija. Yo nunca la miré el 19 de abril, que la miré la última vez aquí, la miré el 19 de abril. Yo no pude mirarla. No me dejaron mirarla, porque decían que no iba a aguantar y que yo podía fallecer de la impresión de cómo estaba yo de salud. El día de su sepelio yo no la miré, nadie la miramos. O sea, fíjese al grado, no llegar a mirar a esa niña, hasta eso
no se podía.
No se pudo. O sea, por el amor de Dios, ¿en qué mundo estamos?
Más que Gloria preguntaba por qué, simplemente la respuesta era no se puede, no la puedes ver.
Se me negaba, yo quería abrir el ataúd. No
Pero
puedo.
uno sí sabía por qué razón no se podía abrir.
O sea, el sufrimiento de esa niña inocente, Dios mío.
La tuvimos que ocultar, pues, tal vez por unos 2 meses, yo creo.
¡Que viva Vanessa Guillen!
Vanessa's funeral is not the end of this story. Her family is asking the Army, what's going to change?
Señores, ¿ustedes creen que el ejército ha hecho suficiente para el caso de su niña?
No. Para nada. No. No, porque se han llevado con pura mentira. Para mí es pura mentira.
When we went up there, when we met with detectives and everything, it was already a cold case, basically. They felt as though she went AWOL. They felt as though she left on her own. They really didn't interview people. They didn't do anything.
They failed us 100%. They failed us once Vanessa signed up. They failed us when Vanessa went missing.
I'm saddened because the Army failed her. This Army failed her, and then we failed her because we're the taxpayers. We pay the Army, but it's our Army. There's nothing worse, I think, for any child of a soldier when that trust is breached, and when that faith that you have in trusting your child to the Army to build their character, to build their leadership skills, to provide an education and make them the ready soldiers there should be, and instead it fell apart. The Army was not there to step up and be there for Vanessa.
Vanessa's remains were found on June 30th. By July 10th, the Army has already agreed to an independent investigation into how she was murdered on base and what happened. Not only does the Army agree to this investigation into Vanessa's case, they also agree to an independent review commission to look into Fort Hood and how this base handles sexual harassment and sexual assault allegations.
They all express their condolences, they all express their words. But I said, words are nothing. Action speaks louder than words. So if you want to take action and demand a congressional investigation as well. Because as I said, every interview, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to be silent. Because God gave me a voice, God gave me a mouth, God gave me a brain, and so I'm using it as well.
It's the end of July 2020. People are demanding accountability, change. They want to know what's next. And that passion leads them to Washington, D.C.
Vanessa Guillen! I feel like the women in the military have to take this and they don't have a voice, and we need to be the voice for them.
I have little sisters that are her age, and when the situation happened, that's who I envisioned.
Being there, supporting the family, shows the family that they have the backing of the people.
I remember the big one here in Houston. When I looked at that crowd, I mean, it was probably 90% young people. It just mushroomed, not only here, but all over the world. So I think the kids deserve a lot of credit for bringing about this change, because they're the ones who marched on the streets to make it happen. She could be your sister, she could be my little niece, she could be someone's granddaughter. And the kids made a difference, all those that were at the protest.
This emotional for you? Why is that, Congresswoman?
Like I said, it could have been my niece.
Congressional leaders, they're meeting and they're talking about Vanessa's case, what went wrong, and what will change at Fort Hood.
I want to say to the Guillen family that we are not going to let Vanessa to have died in vain.
I think what pains me is that she was missing for 70 days, and of course the gruesome brutality of her murder.
News reports from the very, very beginning mentioned sexual harassment. Her family shared that story from the very, very start. Why did it take so long for y'all to try to go in and look at this snapshot to see what's going on in case you needed to do something?
As Vanessa's story is making headlines and lawmakers are promising change, the family sits down with then President of the United States, Donald Trump.
It hit me very hard. I saw what happened to your daughter, Vanessa, who is a spectacular person and respected and loved by everybody, including in the military.
The way they treat Vanessa, they treated us. No transparency, no respect. They did not respect our pleading. They did not respect our pleading of my mother. And they did not respect my sister.
I want to point out, how is it that her chain of command failed?
We're going to get to the bottom of it. And how could it have happened when nobody knew about it at all? They must have known.
One of our own killing a teammate. You know, it takes a shot at the system and it rattles the system of the trust that you have to have in this profession because of just how hard it is and what we do around the world. Vanessa's our teammate. And we let her down. We let her family down. And it hurts.
The story they gave us is completely, I don't even know what the right word for it is, but no one believes that story. We're pushing. We try not to let so many emotions get in between what we have to do to honor our sister.
You have to keep fighting. You have to keep pushing no matter what. And like she telling me that, it encourages me more and more because that's how Vanessa always mentioned to us, never give up.
It's September 2020. The Army makes a huge announcement that leadership at Fort Hood is changing. Vanessa's family says that's not enough.
It does make me upset because after her death and now I still see victims of sexual violence still going out there, and I see another girl committing suicide, and it brings me anger because it had to stop with her because her murder was, you know, horrible. But yet it hasn't, and that's why, you know, makes me more upset than I have ever been.
I had no idea before any of this happened that the military had such a dark background. Now that I know, I feel like it's our responsibility, especially because they did it to one of ours. And I feel like if we just leave things as they are, someone has to do it.
Dice otras madres que me he topado siempre, que me topo donde quiera, que me abrazan donde quiera, Dios lo sabe, que no puedo salir yo porque usted es la mamá de la niña, usted es la mamá de la niña, sí. Dice, yo ya estaría muerta. Yo ya estaría muerta, señora. ¿Cómo ha aguantado ese dolor? Le dije, por mis hijos, tengo 5 más. Por eso he aguantado y porque Dios me ha mantenido de pie, la oración de toda la gente.
Is it hard talking about her?
Yes, it is. It's very hard to talk about her.
Why is that?
Because it's about what happened to her. Like my memory goes back and it hurts me a lot. Like hearing my mom crying at 3 in the morning in the hotel. It hurts me.
I have my days sometimes where I feel like not talking to anyone, not doing anything. But life has a way of teaching you how to be tough. But I look at it the other way. I try to find the bright side of things and try to keep going.
It's December 2020, 8 months after Vanessa goes missing. The Army releases another shocking report.
Now to today's huge news out of the U.S. military. At least 14 Army leaders, including a general, were fired or suspended for leadership failures at Fort Hood.
There were 93 credible accounts of sexual assault, but only 59 were reported.
What was made abundantly clear is that we got to fix our culture. Particularly regarding sexual harassment and sexual assault.
The report is stunning. It talks about failed leadership there at base. What's even more stunning is this idea that this immigrant family that came from Mexico, went to Southeast Houston. They're able to force the most powerful military in the world to change.
If Vanessa was looking down, what do you think she'd say to you about your guys' continued efforts, about your relentlessness, about so many people have looked on and just been in awe of your family and the determination you've shown?
Oh.
Because Chief Acevedo said you guys moved the United States Army to act.
That question was very emotional. You know, I always wear this pin. I always do. And I think that answer could be that she would have never expected me to be up here in front of like 20 cameras and speak to the nation, because I was a very shy person and she knows it. But I do believe that she's proud of what we're doing, that she's the type of person that cares about another person, even though they don't know each other. I believe she's very happy that not many of other victims of sexual violence are going through the same thing that she went through.
The report has revealed a lot, but Vanessa's family says this isn't over.
See, I'm Vanessa Guillen, Bill. We've got to make change in the way that sexual assault and sexual harassment allegations are handled. They got to get out of the chain of command. It's got to be independent. There's a lot of soldiers, men and women alike, that just fear retaliation, fear retribution.
You know, if I get harassed, I got to go talk to someone in my unit and my commander, and that's just really unrealistic. There's an answer to this, and we need that answer. We need that bill passed. We need these protections for our troops. Otherwise, who's going to go and send their child to the military? Congress is enumerated with the power to pass legislation. We need them to do their job, so that way we can all sit as we are today, and knowing that we're protected, knowing that our sons and daughters who are serving are protected.
Oh, it'll happen. Jackie Spears here to make sure. I'm there to make sure the Guillens are there. I think there's a lot of support. Remember, there was 180 sponsors last time. There will be that many this time or more. It will get done and change will come. It's time.
You know, the I'm Vanessa Guillen Act is this legislation that we all are with it, because it will protect and keep Vanessa's legacy alive. But not only that, it will protect men and women in our service, ending up like another Vanessa Guillen.
¿Qué les dice a sus padres que sus niños se quieren inscribir al ejército? ¿Qué les dicen ustedes a ellos?
Yo, como lo he pedido, cero alistamiento, que por favor que me sigan apoyando, porque me apoyan bastantes madres, porque tienen corazón y saben el sentimiento de una madre o un hijo que lo ama, que me sigan apoyando, y que cero alistamiento hasta que no cambien las leyes en el ejército y haga una protección para los jóvenes, una ley como la ley que estamos pidiendo. Yo soy Vanessa Guillen.
As much as Vanessa's story is heartbreaking, change is coming from it. Survivors are coming forward, and they're standing with Vanessa's family, saying they are not alone.
My name is Stephanie Gatas, and I am the founder of the Pink Berets, which is an organization that focuses on women in the armed forces and veterans and first responders who struggle with post-traumatic stress, military sexual trauma, and traumatic brain injury. I believe change is coming because of the fact that there has been numerous conversations centered around sexual assault in the military.
My name is Tina, and I'm an MST survivor. Military sexual trauma, I was raped on active duty. I was stationed in Jacksonville, Florida. It was our first holiday after my first deployment. Single sailors got together, and I relaxed. I was with my ride or dies. I got too drunk, and I thought by removing myself and going to a bedroom where I thought I would be out of sight, out of mind to sleep it off, that happened.
And this is somebody you knew?
Yes, I worked with him. I was very good friends with him, even after. I thought that if I could keep my belt buckled, that I would be safe, that I was gonna be okay walking out of there. And that wasn't the case. I died that day. My heart kept beating, but I died. I had to go through the lows of it and figure out that I was supposed to stop trying to get back to who I was. And I'm creating the new person now You find the new, wherever you can get the pleasures, the good, you find it. I went through a period of complete and absolute self-loathing. The whole process. You go to work, 2 days later, you put on a happy face to the point that your chief says, you know, this fake it till you make it, it's a fine Navy day. One of the worst things about MST, about being sexually assaulted, of course, it's the act itself, but it's the lack of self-trust that happens after. They tell you all the time, it's not your fault. But you know your choices, regardless of whether it was your decision, your choices led you to whatever scenario put you in his path. And so it just starts to go so deep because you have to have a reason. That you can't, how do you fix something that you don't know how it happened if it wasn't your fault and you had nothing to do with it? You have to have somewhere to start to work your way back. So you almost have to blame yourself.
Vanessa Guillen's disappearance and death at Fort Hood, why did her story resonate with you so much?
She's a Hispanic female, an active duty service member. I believe she was within her first or second year of service. Everything was the same for me. It took so long for all of the details to come out as a whole, and that just makes the story worse.
I wholeheartedly believe that Vanessa Guillen's story is always going to remain the catalyst for this change. I don't think that it will ever go away. No more than a woman's memory of rape goes away. So you're going to consistently see Vanessa Guillen's name across a number of different changes, across a number of different stories.
I want to see that Vanessa Guillen Act get pushed through.
On April 22nd, what do you plan to do?
April 22nd, I'll be starting my 76-mile run from here at Fort Sam to the Capitol in Austin. I'm running 76 miles because it took approximately 76 days for Specialist Guillen's remains to be located. I'm starting on April 22nd because it's the anniversary of her disappearance. I decided to do it because 76 days was too much for her family to be put through that. I'll run a really hard 76-mile run. I'll finish at the Capitol, hopefully leave the message. A year out, we're not letting this go.
1 year later, Vanessa's family doesn't have the answers that they want. They really don't have any answers to what happened on April 22nd.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Military Personnel Subcommittee. What the Independent Review Committee found was startling. Quote, the Fort Hood CID is a training ground. These young, inexperienced agents were checklist driven, focused on developing a case file that simply checked the boxes rather than identifying and working leads and suspects that are most likely to resolve cases. Perhaps most disconcerting is that, quote, a large number of sexual assault cases were lost or dismissed at court-martial, partially due to investigations that were rote and lacked essential evidence, unquote.
The main investigator left, and they were short-staffed. They didn't have the capacity. They were not properly trained. If you're short-staffed, you're not given the resources. I mean, some simple thing, even in terms of never having found her phone, but not never looking at trying to track the phone and trying to track anything. I mean, that's just sort of simple technology that most investigators and investigative teams use. I mean, even some kids know how to do that.
There's been a lot of people, a lot of agencies looking into Vanessa's case. There's been a lot of reports, but this one finally comes out and it does something that all the other ones haven't. It validates what her family has been saying, that she was sexually harassed there on base.
She was sexually harassed. The findings of the report indicated that soldier that sexually harassed her was not Specialist Robinson.
The report says that a supervisor did sexually harass Vanessa, leadership was informed, and they failed to take appropriate action. The report also says that Vanessa felt uncomfortable during a field training exercise one day when she's outside trying to use the bathroom. With all these details coming to light, the sexual harassment allegations being confirmed, investigators, though, say they don't believe that contributed to her murder. The family attorney for Vanessa Guillen, she fires back. She says there's a lot of inconsistencies in this report, and it's more about damage control than actual substance.
It's amazing how far we've gotten. I still can't believe it today. We're actually standing here, and
you know, we're gonna get our voices heard. It's really important because the change has to happen. It has to happen now.
The Army announces sweeping changes that they're implementing the recommendations from that independent review. They're restructuring the Criminal Investigation Command. They're redesigning the Sexual Harassment and Sexual Assault Prevention Program. The Army also has launched the People First Task Force. They say it will combat sexual harassment, sexual assault, and violent crimes.
Y pues seguir en esta lucha que nos tocó y Dios permite que se sepa la verdad.
Yo quisiera que ya todo estuviera terminado, pero no parece así. Parece que se va a tardar más de lo que yo pensaba. Pues ojalá y en este año se resuelva algo y ya haya un papel firmado que diga ya se hizo justicia y ya todo esto terminó.
Yo pienso diferente que él en forma de eso. Cuando que ya ha terminado esto, yo cuando diga ya terminó, cuando me digan fueron 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. Estos son los rostros, estos son los nombres. Fue por esto, fue por lo otro, tanto a las rejas ahí se pudren. Y esa criminal que está encerrada, ahí que se pudre. Yo le pido al señor juez que lleva ese caso, que atienda la súplica de esta madre, que no deje libre a esta miserable. Ahí que su castigo será allí que se pudra, allí que se quede, tan cruel y tan ruin y tan miserable, que ahí que se quede. Y es cuando voy a estar yo, esto ya. Qué vergüenza para esta nación, para el ejército, más poderoso, ¿de qué poderoso? ¿De corrupción? ¿De violación? ¿De maldad? ¿De asesinato? ¿De cuál ejército? Vamos a creer en el ejército cuando se haga justicia por ese ser humano tan precioso y hermoso y tan joven, y que el señor presidente baje la bandera a media aspa a nombre de la niña, porque fue una héroe, porque es una historia en toda una nación y en el mundo. Mi hija es historia, es una leyenda. Medio mundo me habla a mí el teléfono, Vanessa es historia.
I remember me and my brother, my youngest brother, over there at the very middle by the sidewalk. We used to hold posters saying "Find Vanessa Guillen." My sister was murdered here at Fort Hood, and until a year later, people are caring about her, about what she went through, and they should have cared when she was alive. The only image I have from her is a picture that I can just hold with my hand, but I can't touch hers.
Lo que tenemos aquí son pinturas que me han hecho las personas para mi Vanessa, reconocimientos por la congresista, por el alcalde, por la jueza, varias cosas, fotos que han hecho para la niña, la gente, esa manta que tengo aquí atrás de mi espalda. Todo esto lo ha hecho la gente, el pueblo, la nación, por ella, por esa niña.
Me da mucho gusto que la gente nos haya apoyado, la gente que dibujó todas las pinturas, la señora que nos regaló los cuadros esos que le regalaron de Silvia García, de los veteranos y de otras, de City of Houston y otras más cosas que hay, y muchas pinturas que nos han regalado, otras están allá en el comedor, y pues gracias a toda esa gente por apoyarnos.
You know, the time that's passed, it feels like it's been rushful, but at the same time so slow. Sometimes I still don't capture the whole thing in my head. I feel like as if she's just gonna walk in one day, and basically I haven't admitted it, so it's really hard. You know, it's quiet, quieter than usual. She was always really loud, so we would hear her come in. She would just bump into the door with all her bags and drop them everywhere, and just bust into the room and be like, "Can you do my makeup?" And I'm like, "Sure." It was like a daily thing. It's quiet now.
It has been different since, you know, during her disappearance, after we found her, we didn't much have the space to grieve. And I feel like it takes months after her funeral. Now, like this year, my memory has recapped everything now. And I think it has been really tougher than last year.
Ha sufrido mucho. O sea, lastimaron no más a mi hija que sufrió el calvario, sino a toda una familia. A toda una familia la lastimaron, emocionalmente y físicamente, se quedó aquí todo.
¿Qué tipo de sensaciones cuando si la sienten aquí?
Yo siento su risa y siento en el comedor cuando vamos a comer, como ella siempre sentaba enfrente de mí.
I constantly feel her all the time. All the time. Or sometimes in dreams she'll come and just tell me that everything's gonna be okay. And most of the time she's happy. It keeps us going.
People sometimes say, you know, like, she's away, but she's not gone. That's how it feels with me. I do recall, like, this year, I actually went to the ER because I was really sick. I was having panic attacks, and I felt her next to me holding, like, my hand. So I always feel that she's here.
De hora de esta tragedia, necesitamos estar más unidos, tanto él y yo y con mis hijos, ser una familia unida en este dolor, porque solamente unidos podemos salir adelante, y la fe en Dios y en la Virgen, porque yo soy devota de la Virgen de Guadalupe, pero antes que nada en Dios, y unidos como pareja y unidos como familia con mis hijos, y lo más que le pido a mi Padre Dios, que me los cuide siempre, me los proteja, y que siempre nos mantengamos unidos, que nunca nos separen, porque ya me separaron de una de mis hijas.
They basically took one of my closest people away from me, from us, from our family. She was at a point where she was actually really happy. She had plans already to get married. She actually wanted to make us aunties. And I was looking forward to that because that's not in my plans anytime soon. They took that away from us, the joy of having her grow, having our family grow.
We lost the perfect of a human being that was next to us all the time. Her name was Vanessa Guillen, but the question is, like, she lost her innocence. She lost her future of being a mother and being successful in life. And I just lost my friend and my idol.
Vanessa will never be forgotten.
I think of her every day because I drive by the murals every day. It reminds me of the loss, and I can't imagine how difficult that is for her family who loved her so very much.
I think that Vanessa Guillen's family has really shown the strength of the Latin population, and that we will come together and we will drive the narrative.
In Vanessa, they saw their story. You know, there was thousands of them who wrote their story on Facebook and tweeted about it. I mean, I think it really, really hit people.
Vanessa is here. She's looking down at you. She's here with you in spirit, but what would you say to her?
You know, I would want to ask her if what happened, obviously, that if she needed any type of assistance, why didn't she tell me earlier, before any of this happened? Or if she was protecting us from anything. I guess she's now seeing that I would literally give up my life for hers. I would do anything to have her back, but she knows that I love her and that we're gonna keep going. I'll make sure that everyone's okay.
What would you say to her?
You know, if I could say a whole book to her, I'll say it to her. But if it was up to like one thing, I would say to her, I love you, because I never said it to her that way. Because we were that type of family who didn't like hug or cry. So if I could say one last time, I'll say to her, I love you, and you know I'll do anything for you.